I woke up at like 7:30 p.m. and I was like, do I just go back to sleep? It was a very weird time. And then I decided not to. I watched the Florida doc instead. And that made me feel bad.
Kill the music because we're going to what's bad now.
And it was real bad. It was real bad.
Let me tell you, Lucy, because I turned on the Florida doc on Netflix.
Mistake.
What's it called? Swamp Kings?
Swamp Kings.
Swamp Kings. And you know how at the beginning of every doc, this was a series. I didn't really know that. So I was like, oh, okay. So they've either got really good stuff or, just sort of stretching out this football thing. And you just realize right off the bat, it's just a football doc. Like they've got, you mentioned yesterday, they've got Urban. It's like, wow, if they got Urban, then you're not going to talk about any of the bad stuff. First thing I did was just look at the episode summaries. You're not getting into anything negative with this group.
Nope.
Not a single thing. And then you hear almost within 10 seconds, spoiler alert for anybody who wants to watch this, Urban Meyer used the brotherhood, and then Tim Tebow say brotherhood. And Lucy, I'm not even kidding. I turned it off right then and there.
I
had to, I needed to breathe. I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. And then 2 hours later, I decided to watch it. I watched the first 2 episodes. It's there inside the U, but not even as detailed as Inside the U was. It's just football. I'm 2 episodes in out of 4, and they haven't even, now he hasn't gotten there yet. But Aaron Hernandez hasn't even arrived yet. And Percy Harvin, they've shown him make one long run and just don't even talk about him.
They don't talk about literally anything. I told you guys I thought this was going to suck. I thought they were just going to gloss over the partying stuff. They didn't gloss over it. They completely ignored everything. There was one tiny 5-minute segment, and I think the third part where they talked about how crazy these guys were, and then they were like, but you know who wasn't crazy? Tim Tebow. You know who didn't party? Wow. Tim Tebow. Yeah. They showed clips of him reading the Bible at a pool. It was insane. It was so bad.
The first image you get of Tim after the first few minutes of just sort of them encapsulating things is a silhouette from the back, neck down, holding a Bible.
Yeah.
And they zoom in on and then they sit down and he's just flipping through the pages of the Bible. And then as he's one of the other settings where he's interviewed, he's just kind of whispering when he talks. He's not, and it's just like, what is going on here?
It was I expected it to be bad, but it was a level of bad that it was just entirely I don't even want to call it a football doc. It was like a Urban Meyer redemption tour doc, which is insane. Don't try to make me feel bad for that guy. It's absolutely not going to work. It made me hate him more.
Well, at the beginning of it, he talked about how he really brought the discipline. He made it sound like the problems were before he got there, and I'm sure there were some. I don't know what the numbers are, but he made it sound like he brought the discipline.
So he cleaned things up.
But no, all they went to was just how much harder they worked on the field and how much more insane of the mat drill. I watched that, and I assumed that maybe Mike, king of college football over here, would know what the mat drill is, and Mike didn't know what the mat drill was, and he's like, is it like the Oklahoma drill? I'm like, no, it's nothing like that. And Lucy, I don't know if you could help me explain this, but it's basically you put 2 guys on a mat, and it's just the only one who survives? Does somebody have to get off the mat? Does somebody have to get up? I'm not sure exactly what the end goal was.
It's pretty much whoever survives when. There was not a lot of good parts of this documentary. There was one clip I liked. It was a former Florida player being like, I will never let my kids know what we did in those practices.
Oh. Well, there was one image of a guy just throwing up into his own arms and not even blinking, not even moving. You had Brandon Spikes, who was this great recruit his freshman year, saying, and he was a beast of a football player, saying, I came here to play football. These guys are all preparing like they're going to the Army. I'm not about that. And so it wasn't about everybody's life is not about that intensity but enough people bought in to where it changed everything in that 1 year. And that one first title that they won was about as shocking of a title as you could think about in the years past, because you remember going into that game and they showed it. It was just it's going to be an Ohio State blowout. Florida probably doesn't even deserve to be here. It should be Michigan. And then Florida comes out and wins the game.
As you're talking about this, I'm just realizing I literally couldn't care less about this part of the topic.
Right.
Who wants this when it comes to the Florida doc? That should not have been what this is about.
Do you think that they know that it was a dud, and that's why it was the last episode of this 3rd season of Untold?
They did release them pretty quickly, right? Well, it wasn't because was the Balco doc just released and then this one the same week?
The Johnny Manziel one was last week,
right.
I think. And
Johnny Manziel was the 8th, so then the other one, I guess, was the 15th, and then this one. But this is the last one that I see scheduled for this 3rd volume of Untold. So presumably it's, I mean, I'm guessing because you guys have said that it was like a waste of time and not what anyone wanted. This was like the big seller that everybody wanted to watch, and now it's like, okay, now you have months to forget that it was a dud.
Well, there is one selling point, and there's a note on it that Lucy mentioned and she tweeted about that I want to bring up next segment. So we were talking about the Florida doc on Netflix, Swamp Kings, and Lucy swings. Lucy watched all 4 episodes, and I watched 2 of them. And there was one particular note that Lucy posted about on X, which is, wow, we're all just really working tweet and Twitter out of our language, aren't we?
Not me.
Okay.
That's just you.
That Lucy tweeted about. And Lucy, tell them about the image that you shared.
This was one of those moments I had to rewind to be like, did I hear and see that right? And I have subtitles on. Urban Meyer said, we have a core value, and that's if you hit a woman, you're out. Which was a wild thing for Urban Meyer to say on this documentary, because at Ohio State, he had an assistant coach who he knew was hitting his wife, and he kept him around. He said that on the doc. And at this point, I felt like he was producing the thing because it was such an Urban Meyer like puff piece that I was like, why would they leave that in there? It was insane.
Jeremy's face is about as shocked as I've ever seen. When you said that.
He said that like in an interview or in an
on
old
camera.
clip?
Like, it was an interview for this doc. It was something that they filmed while he was still the coach at the Jaguars, so as of 2 years ago. Unbelievable. I had to pause it, rewind, took a picture, sent it to the group chat, and I was like, this cannot be real.
I just can't believe that after you guys went out and said, hey, this is probably going to be bad, that it's so much worse than I thought it could be. The fact that it would just be an Urban Meyer puff piece of all things, I figured at the very least, you guys said, there's the imagery around Tebow, that it would just be a Tebow celebration documentary. But if it's an Urban Meyer celebration documentary, what are we doing?
Even if I'm Florida, even if I'm the higher-ups in the athletic department or what have you, I don't like this as promotion for my school because the coach isn't still there. And even if he was, I'd be like, I'm not going to send my kid to throw up in his own arms after he wrestles with guys when he's going to play football. And so in terms of like the wins and losses, yada, yada, like you can't translate whatever they're doing now into what was happening then. And if anything, you want to say, hey, I'm going to do the math or just do some history on who the leadership was at the University of Florida. If they're still there, I don't want to send my kid there because of all the things that they're avoiding. Because if they don't talk about Aaron Hernandez, or at least, hey, have a link to the Aaron Hernandez doc on the same streaming service, then they're not providing any real information.
The only mention of Aaron Hernandez they had was Tim Tebow talking about the time that he got in a bar fight with Aaron Hernandez. Obviously, Tim Tebow didn't, but they were together, and that was it. That was the only mention. You would see him in footage.
They didn't get into the bar fight. They just mentioned the bar fight.
They just mentioned it, and it was Tim Tebow being like, I shouldn't have let it happen.
That bar fight's a part of college football lore. The fact that they just
do you remember more of the details? Because I don't.
Yeah, it's they didn't cover Huntley Johnson either.
Yeah, what was Huntley up to?
Nothing. Every single thing you think they should have talked about, they didn't.
$2, Izzy. I saw you. Don't do it again.
That was Chris Cody's joke that I was just regurgitating.
No.
Guilty by association.
Wait a second. I mean, you have what are the rules here? Whoever wears the best T-shirt gets to create the fines.
Them's the breaks.
Apply the fines.
Them's the breaks.
Here are the rules.
Here's
Juju's in
t-shirt.
charge.
Okay.
No one's paid a fine since Nam.
Well, the fine money disappeared at one
I've
point.
always been somebody who's
No, that's
been
not true,
true
actually.
to my word.
We have now a piggy bank for added security so that the money can't just disappear. And it has like a little tummy plug so that you can open it and you don't have to break it.
It sounds like there's stuff in here.
No, there is stuff in there. I opened it the other day because I was like, does this work? So I opened it, and then I saw that there was money, and I made sure to hold up in front of the camera that I was closing it and put it back down exactly where it was. And then I did like a magician, like one of these.
That doesn't fix the problem. If anything, it makes it worse.
What?
Because there's a little plug at the bottom. So now when someone actually takes stuff from there, since it's not see-through like the other jar, we actually don't know how long it's been gone.
Sounds like a thief to me.
But Billy, when you wear the DraftKings hoodie that you're doing, and it's got the like elastic on the sleeves, like you could still do this and still have stuff up the sleeve.
I wish I did. I wish I knew magic. Well, no, I don't.
Where's
I don't know
Chris
why I
when we
said
need
that.
him?